and welcome to the Pikeville City Manager's Report. I'm Jill Fraley-Dotson, your host for today's show. As always, Pikeville City Manager Philip Elswick joins us to talk about things going on in and around the city of Pikeville. Good day,
Jill.
Philip.
Good to see you.
Glad to see you. We have a lot to talk about.
We do.
Are entering the spring season. A lot starts happening when March rolls around. So we're going to talk about a lot of interesting things today and update our audience on things that are coming and things that have happened. So let's get to it.
Sounds good.
The first thing we want to talk about, we have a great cooperation with the city of Coal Run, City of Pikeville does. So ambulance service is something that we've been looking into, and I know you want to talk about that today.
Yeah, we do have a great relationship with Coal Run and the Mayor Scott and their commission there. And as an adjacent city, it's always good to have that cooperation and really friendship. But one of the things that Coal Run does not currently have is ambulance service. It's provided by the corporation that operates in the area, and being spread thin, sometimes they have long response times to the point that some people just bring their loved ones to the hospital rather than wait on the ambulance. Well, the city of Pikeville has a response time of about 4 minutes for our citizens. So we're seeking a certificate of need from the state to expand our service area to include the city of Coal Run. It'll be an upgraded service for those citizens, and we believe, Mayor Scott believes as well, that it'll save lives in the long run. So we'll be submitting that application shortly, and then that's a kind of a lengthy process. So toward the fall, end of the year, we should receive approval, hopefully, to provide that service.
Certainly something that I know the city of Coal Run and their residents there are very thankful for when that comes through.
Absolutely.
Infrastructure and facilities is something that we always talk about because we have so many different aspects of the city that we always want to focus on. And certainly if we don't have infrastructure and facilities, we can't move forward with a lot of different programs that we have.
That's absolutely. One of the projects that we're going to be working on this spring is the Huffman Avenue Summit Drive Drainage Project. And, people here in Pikeville know that every year at some point that intersection will be flooded with mud and water and debris. So, Huffman Avenue and Summit Drive are both city streets. The bypass there is obviously a state road, but the state has issued a permit for us to do the work necessary to improve that situation. So there's a number of drainage areas, culverts, and that we'll be replacing or enlarging, really just putting a larger pipe there to carry a faster flow. We're also doing some things in the ditch along Summit Drive to reduce the water speed as it comes through that ditch, so that when it gets to the bottom of that large drop box where the water goes into Cloy Creek, it won't just jump over that area like it does now and enter the intersection. So we'll be doing that this spring. It'll be a lengthy project. Hopefully it'll be after school is dismissed for the year, so we don't impact school traffic. That's certainly what we're planning on. So that's a good project for that area, and will really improve some problems we've had there.
You're right. In the spring season, the rain comes, and certainly we've seen our fair share.
That's right.
Over the last few weeks. The Emergency Management 911 relocation has happened.
It has.
And I'm sure everybody's getting settled into that location.
We are. The city acquired that building beside City Hall some time ago, and our dispatch emergency management staff had really outgrown the space they had at the police department, like we've talked about in the past. And as the city continues to grow and new facilities come online that have higher emergency concerns, we decided to expand that space into the building there on Scott Avenue. So it's several times larger than the space that they left. It's a much improved facility for them, and I know that staff's really excited about it.
Certainly are. I've heard a lot of good things about that. Something else that we've talked about numerous times with everything going on at Bob Amos, we always have something going on there, but the event center is something we want to update folks on.
Right. The event center will be located at the Overlook area of Bob Amos, and we have awarded that bid to Rising Sun Developing, and they will begin construction just as soon as the state issues their permit to do so. It's about a 10-month construction period, so hopefully it'll be done early 2020, and we can begin having events there. We have already removed the two shelters that were, the two shelters that were at the overlook, and that area will be closed when construction begins, so which should be in the near future. So as you start up the hill there past the horse barn, the road will be blocked and no access to the overlook, sadly. I mean, that's a nice amenity in the city, but
Right.
it'll be a great improvement when we have the event center there.
A lot of people, a lot of talk about that. Very excited to have that as an option.
Yeah, we're
for
excited to
all
have
kinds of
that.
events. Yeah. Kentucky Enterprise Industrial Park Access Road. This is something that we've talked to you about, and just to make sure that there's a different entrance and an exit if need be at the park is what that's for.
Right. This road will intersect US 23 on the Longview Drive side of the park near the Shelbyana Post Office. And that project is under construction. It's started construction on the top inside the park, and we're currently acquiring property along Longview Drive. So as we get that property tied up, it'll begin moving much quicker.
One of the focal points of our city, if you travel down Hamley Boulevard, is the pedway that crosses from the parking garage to the University of Pikeville.
Right.
It is used all the time, frequently. I can't imagine how many people use it every single day, but it's now lit.
Well, it will be lit.
It will be lit. I'm sorry, it will be lit.
We have advertised for LED lighting to be placed on the bottom of that pedway, and that will give us the ability to have different colors of lights for different events going on in town. So, at the 4th of July, there may be red, white, and blue lights, or certainly should be red, white, and blue lights. Police Week that we have every year in May, it'll be blue. So it's just a great way to add some accent to our celebrations. So
And like I said, of course, everybody who travels up and down Hamley, I always like to see what's going on.
That's right.
Because of the big board that is there already.
Right.
Our sister city is Dundalk, Ireland, and it's something that we really embrace and enjoy being involved with them. It was the hometown of Dr. Pierce Lyons, and one of the reasons he fell in love with Pikeville is
Absolutely.
because it reminded him so much.
It did. It reminded me of his hometown, and we executed, I guess in Europe they refer to those as twinning agreements, and here we refer to them as a sister city agreement. But we executed that in March of 2015, and every year Dundalk sends representatives of their city to New York City for the St. Patrick's Day celebration, and this year is no exception. And we visited with them in the past in New York, and this year we invited them to come to Pikeville. They've accepted our invitation, and they'll be here for some time on March the 18th. And we have a full agenda for them, including meeting community leaders, going to the Dueling Barrels, which is a sister distillery of theirs in Ireland, and then also having a short performance at Jenny Wiley Theater. So it's a great way to introduce them to Pikeville and continue to build that relationship. Dundalk is a town, although it's larger than Pikeville, about 30,000 people, it's much like Pikeville. It's a university town. Healthcare is a very important industry there. They have made some progress with their fiber to the premise project, so we can learn some things from them as we begin to embark on that project. So we're just really excited to continue that relationship, continue learning from our partners, and then we're planning to make a trip there in 2020.
Very good. Excited to have that conversation when you return and certainly see what their thoughts are about our fair city. Back in the fall when Beechwood and Pikeville played football in the Class A state tournament, there was an agreement between our Mayor Carter and their Mayor Wagner to kind of a gentleman's agreement to visit one another's city if whoever won and see the differences and kind of look around, because Beechwood and Fort Mitchell there and Pikeville are very similar, although they're much further north, obviously, than we are. But I'm anxious to hear how that visit went.
Well, it was actually a great visit. We, to be honest, didn't expect to lose. So we thought they'd be visiting Pikeville. But so on some time ago, we went to Fort Mitchell and met with their mayor, met with their school superintendent, met with the city administrator, and it was just a really good visit. We toured the Beechwood High School, where football is obviously very prominent. Their cafeteria overlooks the football field. And we spent a lot of time with city officials, including the police chief and the fire chief, and our police chief, Chief Edmonds, and fire chief, Chief Bentley, as well as Public Safety Commissioner Philip Reed, went with us on that visit. So the mayor and I met with our counterparts in city government while The rest of the people from Pikeville met with their counterparts and just exchanged information and talked about issues there. Fort Mitchell is a town just slightly larger than Pikeville. It's about 8,000 people in population. But whereas Pikeville's 15 square miles, Fort Mitchell is 2 square miles. So it's much more densely populated and a much smaller geographic area. But it's not a city unlike Pikeville. There's a lot of similar issues. And when we recruit fire and police officers, those are hard positions to fill. And that's not just in Pikeville, that's also in other cities. And certainly Fort Mitchell has a lot of competition from other cities there. Their retail economic development is something that they're responsible for, and I say it that way because there's a regional group that does the industrial economic development for the entire region there. But they're working on that diligently to continue to attract new retail establishments, as we are.
They're in such a location where it's in such close proximity to Cincinnati that they do, I guess, have a lot of competition there.
They do.
But certainly I think from us, the way that we have brought retail into our smaller town, they could certainly learn maybe from us that way.
Certainly. Certainly.
And I know that's a great relationship to have and certainly want to continue that. And, we did want them to come here
that's
for
right.
sure.
And they are coming.
And they are going to come anyway.
They're going to visit us in the fall.
Yeah. Talking a little bit more about economic development too, the city is currently looking for an economic development director.
We are.
It's a position that has not been filled for some time, but now as we continue to grow and to look for new businesses, that position is available.
Absolutely. When after the Interblue announcement and Sean Cochran joined the Silverliner team, the commission chose not to fill that position at the time because essentially our industrial park was full. But with the recent change in that, we're now going to fill that position, and we received a number of applications and have 4 very qualified candidates that we'll be interviewing in the near future. That position is just critical to the continued growth of Pikeville. I don't think that really needs to be said, but without someone with great skill and great experience in that position, we would be a little bit behind in our competition as we compete with other cities and other regions for these businesses. So we were looking for someone that has considerable economic development experience, and we've come to find out that's a rather small community. Not just here, but throughout the nation. There's just not a lot of people that do that type of work and have really good experience with that. So we've been very fortunate to get some excellent candidates, and we'll be filling that position in the very near future.
And this person that you hire will need to work closely with many different groups that we have in our region and throughout the state and throughout the country even to get those businesses interested in what we have to offer. Yeah,
well, the local or regional economic development group is One East Kentucky, which is managed by Chuck Sexton. Chuck does a great job, and we will expect this person to work hand in hand with Chuck to bring businesses to Pikeville, industrial businesses, but they'll also work with our Main Street program and the Chamber and other groups to continue to develop the local retail economy and commercial economy.
And there's some other things coming up too. Red City Planning is something I know you want to discuss.
Yeah, Red City Planning is a proposal that the city executed with a gentleman named Adam Chandler. And Adam got to know Pikeville through his work at Realty Link, which developed the Pikeville Commons facility. And Adam's going to be doing some work for us, an in-depth study on the retail economy here in Pikeville and retail development. So we're looking at ways to continue to enhance that and grow that while capitalizing on the retail growth that we've had. So a couple of weeks ago, he was in town and he held a Retail 101 workshop, as he refers to it. And members of the commission were there and my staff were there, as well as local business owners, to learn kind of the current trends in development of retail businesses and why people choose to put them where they do, and then issues that prevent that. So, based on that information and some feedback he received, he'll be preparing a report for us that focuses on our traffic patterns and maybe what we could do to enhance those or change those. Also taking more feedback from the community about things they would like to see and looking at our demographics to gauge the type of businesses we should be pursuing, looking at our zoning codes to see if there's changes that need to be made to facilitate that growth. And then he's going to give us a list of actionable items that we can take if we believe it appropriate, that he suggests will improve our ability to attract retail development.
One of the things that Pikeville's always been known for, especially in recent years, is their ability to look toward the future and to prepare for what's coming and to be on trend with so many different, not only economic development, but also retail businesses. So I'm certain that our retail businesses that did attend were thankful and glad to hear what he had to say.
I certainly hope so. I mean, he had some good information, and I believe that we'll benefit from him being here.
Yeah. Downtown business is something that we pride ourselves on in the city because of the walkability and the wonderful array of shops and different opportunities that we have, not only for our residents, but for our businesses. But there's also some downtown incentives that we want to discuss.
There are. The commission is considering business incentives for the downtown area, and that we refer to that as the Central Business District. And you know, a healthy downtown economy is very beneficial to the entire community. You know, as we look to diversify the number of businesses that we have downtown, we need to also preserve the historic buildings that are in the city. We have a number of those in the downtown area, and we want to continue to improve those, restore them, rehabilitate them as may be necessary. But downtown businesses are driven by pedestrian traffic. So while we were developing these incentives for businesses, that was always in the forefront of our mind, as to the pedestrian traffic that we have and what we can do to improve commercial development in this area based on that. So, you know, pedestrians are going to focus on the street level storefronts of buildings and not really look at the upper levels. So the street level storefronts are where the retail development needs to be, the retail businesses, whether that's restaurants or art shops or antique shops. The Main Street program, which will be administering all this, has a number of target businesses that would fall within this program. And the Main Street will be accepting applications, and if you meet the eligibility of those requirements for these programs, it'll be a first come, first served basis. So we are not judging anybody's business or anything of that nature. As long as it falls within the scope of what we're seeking, then you're certainly eligible for that incentive.
Our Main Street program is so active and has been so active in restoring so many of the storefronts downtown. Certainly this is just one more step in a positive direction to make sure that those businesses have tons of pedestrians and tons of customers come in, but also to expand upon what we can offer downtown.
Right. Main Street has been very successful, and we believe these incentives will make it even more successful. And really the incentives are focused on two different groups. First of all, the property owners that own the buildings downtown, and then the businesses themselves. And you know, one of the programs that we will be instituting is the Property Reassessment Moratorium Program. And really what that means is a tax moratorium, a property tax moratorium. And that only applies to city property taxes. It doesn't affect any other taxing entities' taxes. But if you invest 25% of the current assessed value of your property to rehabilitate that, to stabilize it, improve it, then you are eligible to have your city property taxes frozen for 5 years at the pre-improvement level, which is a substantial benefit. You know, one of the caveats of receiving that is that you have to put retail business space on the street level. We have a number of requirements in our zoning code for off-street parking or for loading requirements. All of those are eligible to be modified or waived as part of that program, and the commission will consider those and make decisions on those requests. And then you're automatically enrolled in the next program that we'll talk about, the Commercial Property Rehabilitation Program. And that the only difference between the two is that the commercial property only requires a 5% investment in the property on its current assessed value. And there is no tax moratorium with that program. But the benefits of the community property or commercial property rehabilitation program is that we will reimburse, or the Main Street program will reimburse you for 90 days of construction dumpster rental. And also, you're eligible for reimbursement of up to $600 over 3 months on your water tap fees and then your water use fees throughout those 3 months. And I didn't say this earlier, but all of these incentives require the property owner or the business to pay those fees, and then you submit your receipts to us or Main Street, and you'll be reimbursed for those. So those are really the two that benefit property owners. And one more caveat is that you have to leave that street level storefront for 5 years. You can't change that for 5 years, or there'll be penalties and
yeah, and
applied.
Again, the street level, as you mentioned, will be reserved for businesses like restaurants, retail stores, cultural and entertainment businesses, and like you said, needs to stay that way for 5 years.
Right.
And there are a lot of business incentives
There are.
that we need to discuss. And if you are, I want to say, an entrepreneur, or you've been toying with the idea of your mind of opening a small business, this is really something that you need to pay close attention to because the incentives are fantastic.
Yeah, we believe they are really robust for businesses. But there's a couple of eligibility requirements. You have to produce a business plan, either through the Morehead State Small Business Development Center that's located in my office, or SOAR's Innovation Network, or another program that receives approval for that. And then this is not eligible, or I'm sorry, national franchises are not eligible, or businesses that have 5 or more operating entities. So this is really for small business. And then finally, government buildings or government functions are not eligible. But the first one of those projects is the beautification micro grant. And I mentioned earlier the need to maintain our historic built environment, and this follows in those lines. And this project, you are eligible for up to $100 match in a project that maybe changes the lighting or changes the color of the building. You add flowers, something of that nature. Just a small change that improves the property. So we'll match up to $100. Similarly, we have the facade signage grants and the historic building facade grants. The facade signage we'll match up to 80% of your total project cost to a maximum of $1,000. And those are, obviously larger projects than just painting or whatever. And then the historic building we'll match up to 50% of your project cost to a maximum of $5,000. And the historic building grant, it may be things like replacing windows or repairing windows to the national standards for rehabilitation, replacing and repairing mortar joints, reestablishing the historical architectural details of the building. So larger projects that really focuses on the historic nature of those buildings.
We do have so many of those buildings downtown that we have seen restored. I think of where Spoiled Rotten is now. That building, how it was restored and brought back to life, and now houses a wonderful business, and still serves as a landmark for our city is certainly something that we want to preserve, and because it's one of the treasures of our town.
Well, there's so much history in Pikeville, and a lot of it is associated with those buildings, and it's important that we preserve that for future generations.
The Under One Roof program also is something that it falls into this program.
Yeah, this program is really for a space that is too large for one retail development, so it's designed where the property owner would reduce the size of that or subdivide it really into smaller spaces, and each of those has to be 1,000 square feet or more. But doing that, it allows you to charge less rent for that space, and the business has less utility cost, and will reimburse a portion of those costs for that project. So that is really going to be a robust project or incentive, I think, because we have a number of large areas in town that truly are too large for a retail development. And this can, divide that and generate more businesses.
Absolutely. Restaurants are something that they seem to pop up sometimes, and then they maybe just don't have a good business plan in place and they disappear. But certainly a restaurant incentive grant is something that we want to make sure is at least explored.
Right, and these are restricted to new restaurants. We have a number of restaurants in town now, but restaurants are a big part of downtown areas. So this is designed to attract new restaurants, and we'll reimburse up to $5,000 for purchase of equipment or other tangible assets, tables and chairs, things of that nature. Just the things you need to operate a restaurant.
Open late grant. I'm curious as to what that is.
Yeah, a lot of retail development in the downtown area, and a lot of downtown areas, closes at 5 o'clock. Well, 5 o'clock is when people's leaving work and really would be available to go to those businesses. So this is an incentive program that would entice businesses to stay open to 9 o'clock on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights. And we're really offsetting the cost of an entry-level employee working those hours. So the reimbursement that we would do would not exceed $400 per month.
Okay. Street level rent subsidy.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about the importance of street level.
Yeah.
And this is just another way to incentivize business owners to locate there. And we'll subsidize the rent of that space up to $400 a month. Really 50% reimbursement up to $400 a month, and we'll do that for a year.
And we talked some about the upper level too. We understand how important it is to have that street level, but there are businesses that might benefit from the upper level, and we want to make sure that those options are explored as well.
Absolutely. Professional services like lawyers and accountants and engineers aren't really driven by pedestrian traffic. It's more of a consultation type thing or a reference type business. So we will subsidize those businesses that are currently located on street level in a lot of the downtown area. We'll subsidize them to move to an upper level and open the street level for retail development. And it's the same. It's $400 per month or 50% up for a year.
And certainly, when we talk about these locations, and in my mind, I'm going through our streets in our downtown area to try to figure out where these locations are. There's a lot of space downtown that people may not realize that's not being utilized at the moment. So that's why this whole program is coming into effect.
Right. Specific to that program, the upper level subsidy, that will not always be available.
Right.
It depends on the amount of street level space that's available at the moment. So if there's a shortage, then we would certainly incentivize people to move.
Absolutely. The tax credit application assistance, we talked a lot about tax credits before. Don't want to leave that one out.
Yeah, tax credits are really used by businesses to promote their rehabilitation and improvements. And really that program, our Main Street staff will help you through the process with the Kentucky Heritage Council to receive those credits.
And everyone always, you can't have money, or you have to have money to start these businesses, and the favorable loan program certainly will lend itself. Yeah,
the city is attempting to work with some of our community lending institutions to create a program where that business may receive favorable loan terms because they're a recipient of our incentives. That's certainly not complete yet, but we're having conversations.
Now, we've talked a lot about businesses and the opportunity for businesses. Tell everyone one more time, if they're joining us today and they're hearing all about these wonderful incentives and these programs that they will be available for, how do they apply for all of the programs that we just discussed?
Well, Minta Trimble's our Main Street director, and that will be the primary contact for all of these incentives. So just reach Minta, contact her, and we'll get you all the paperwork you need.
Tourism season is here. It is March, and we do so much every month of the year. January and February usually are used for planning. We had some great events in February, too, coming off of the Christmas and holiday season. But tourism was really picking up, and we were just talking about it, opened up a visitor center in the Expo Center off of the Main Street entrance.
Right. It's right inside the door on the Main Street entrance. And the city really hasn't had a visitor center until now. And this will be a space that you can go and find information about the city and the region, really, with brochures and other information. And there's items to buy, merchandise that are Pikeville themed. And you can also make your reservations for the Zip Paddle Saddle or other events that may be going on there. So it's just a good way to get introduced to Pikeville.
That is one thing that I do want to mention. You can walk inside that location and you can either book your time for Zip Paddle Saddle yourself, or someone will be there to assist you to let you know exactly what you need to do and if you have any questions. But I had a chance to kind of walk around in the other night, and it really is just a perfect spot. If you have questions about the city of Pikeville, anything that's going on, if you want to book your activities, and certainly I believe that will be something that will be heavily used as we get closer into the time that the weather breaks and we have some more opportunities to get out. But it really is a great location to go in, and if the box office is right there for the Expo Center too, so you can go in and check out some things going on. If you want to see one of our great shows coming up, you can go ahead and get your tickets there. Also, you have a brochure that has been developed, and is that located within the center as well? Okay.
Yeah, they'll be available there.
Okay. So if you need, and I'll go ahead and hold it up for you, or you can do it. Just if you see this inside, it's a great brochure. It talks about the history of Pikeville, everything that we have to offer. And so if you're looking at your summer calendar, your spring calendar, and you want to go through and mark some dates there and really want to set aside some time to see what we have to offer, that would be a great place to start.
Absolutely. That's a project that was developed by our tourism director, Jimmy Taylor, and facilitated by Kathy Atkins in my office. And it's a great tool as you plan, and a great way to introduce people to Pikeville.
A lot of stuff coming up in the next few months, Philip, and we will visit back. We also have Hillbilly Days right around the corner, and I know that we'll be talking about that coming up very, very soon. But thanks so much for your time today. I know people are excited to see and hear all about the wonderful things that are going on in the city, and look forward to the coming months.
Well, thank you.
This has been the Pikeville City Managers Report. Thank you so much for joining us.